Alright guys, you got your boy Stingren here today, and today we are back with some reverse 1999 content here today, and today we're going to be talking about the new Euphorias. This is going to be Euphoria discussion for Getian, Centurion, and Druvis, who's getting their second Euphoria. Also, Druvis' second Euphoria will completely be free, so I believe there is some sort of thing that's going on when the patch goes live, where you get a special key that will instantly unlock all of the passives for that second Euphoria. So my fingers are crossed that Druvis' Euphoria is actually pretty good because it's free. All you gotta do is have Druvis. That's it. If you have Druvis and then you can get into the other Euphoria, that's it. I do believe the key is specifically tailored towards Druvis only, so you can't use it for like someone else. But for what it's worth, I'm just hoping that Druvis is the most useful one here. Anyways, let's talk about Getian first, who got ultimate damage boost, damage increase, and array extension effect, which is pretty good. He does need an extension to his array because it's actually probably one of the most important things of his kit, to be honest. All right, let's see. Also, shout out to Muri again for providing the translation material here. Alright, new effects. Let's go ahead and pause here. Alright, so new effects, increase Eureka limit. Okay, that's decent. A prophecy told now consumes Eureka and grants Eureka when casting I Shall Walk exist and no. So a prophecy told, I believe, is the array field, and I Shall Walk exist and no is the ult, if I'm not remembering it correctly. So let's see. A prophecy told gains an additional effect when characters deal reality damage. It attacks a reality damage attack skill. It increases ultimate might. Oh, okay. So ultimate might support. Okay, and bone reading triggers animation. No longer consumes Eureka and will not be removed due to insufficient Eureka. It lasts for several rounds and increases animation. And each animation trigger is triggered as an ultimate, and the reality damage of animation is also further increased. Okay, so from reading this rank one alone, it kind of seems like they're trying to make him into like a sub DPS. Dutian's DPS was always kind of considerably bad. They did try to give him things that would actually help him do a little bit more damage. Like I think he has built-in crit rate, crit damage. I think animation could actually hit a little bit decent, but for what it's worth, it was never really conceded that Gutian would considerably be sub DPS tier. The fact that they're making him into the ultimate might is a little bit concerning because there's not too much room for him in the proper ultimate might team as of currently, and there's not too many units who would really want him. The only two real candidates for ultimate might in current day use is Ricoletta, who has her team with Melania. I guess maybe it could be a potential change over Pickles, but Modir is a stronger candidate for that as a support option, who's also a beast unit and a support or a sustain of choice. So maybe he might fit into a different team or just act as a budget option. So maybe he might be able to help in that regard. But Nora doesn't want nothing to do with him because she's mental. Other characters who would need outside support because their ults are their strongest moves, like kind of the older units like Spa, for example, maybe because that could be like that could be kind of like reviving an old comp that used to exist. Remember when we used to run Jutian with our reality DPSs like Ju, like Spa, like that could be a thing because you can run Isolde and Jutian together and the reality buffs do stack because Shape of Bones, which is his his signature reality shred, is stackable with Isolde's reality shred, which is something. So that does help in that regard. You could probably run like a team like that, but then you probably run into a problem of not having a sustain because yeah, you need a sustain like, or you probably run into a situation where Spot ends up overcapping, maybe potentially, which might be bad, but maybe I might want to try it if it ever comes around a global, or if we end up getting a unit within this patch or within the next couple patches, because not necessarily this doesn't mean that this is only for the 3.0 cast, but Gutian could very well be a best in slot support for a different unit that comes out like in 3.1 for all we know. This is the very same case that happened with Ezra. Like Ezra ended up getting the Blood Teeth stuff, and then he ended up going off. He ended up getting the Dynamo stuff and the Blood Teeth stuff, and then he ended up being best in slot for Dynamo. So, I mean, this could be one of those, but for what it's worth, it's a pretty good rank one, all things considered. I want to see what his potential sub DPSing ability could be. I don't think it's main DPS territory though. I don't think so. I think it's more so going to be sub for sure. Let's see, rank 2. At the start of the battle, Moxie increases more because he gets a one time. I know he gets a one time Moxie increase, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he gets Moxie plus 3. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Moxie plus 3 if you have the sufficient amount of of reality characters in the team. I think if you have 2 or more reality characters in a team, then he effectively gets Moxie plus 3 or something like that. So I believe that's actually what he does get. So that could be. Let me see. I believe it is. I'm gonna make sure just to make sure I'm aware. But yeah, he gets Moxie plus 3 if there's 3 plus reality units in the team at P0. I believe at P2 it's reduced to, I believe, only needing 2 for the 3 Moxie. So I guess what rank 2 probably will do was just give him the plus 2 Moxie that he needs just to basically alt turn 1. So that means you get the array field immediately. That's probably what it's gonna do. At the end of the round, if under a prophecy told, further increases on Moxie. Okay, that's actually very good. That's very, very good. The reason why this is very, very good is because, one, this means that Gutian doesn't really have to struggle to continuously keep his array filled up. One of Jutian's biggest problems when he first came out was that he couldn't really keep his field up. Even if you did get the +1 extension from P1, it was still kind of considerably annoying because you had to commit to using actions with him. And that could have been spent using, other stronger buffs or other stronger damaging skills. So that way you would keep his array filled up. Now you don't have to do that because if it's a P0, then you're getting a minimum of 3 Moxie. So that means you only have to commit to 2 actions within 3 turns, which is not bad. If you're P1, which gives you an extra turn, then you only have to commit to a single action within 4 turns, which effectively means you can kind of be AFK. Now, I think the only action you'd probably commit is either getting up his reality shred or setting up more uses of animation. So, I mean, that's pretty good though. For what it's worth, the rank 2 is actually pretty strong. So, there's that. Alright, so let's see what is the rest of the stuff. I'm gonna speed past this a little bit. Alright. Alright, rank 3. After casting Old Bones, animation will also be triggered. This is an instance of... This instance, the animation will deal increased reality damage. Okay. While under a prophecy told for rank 4, when Getian triggers, animation gains increased crit rate, crit damage from inside effects. While under a prophecy foretold, when casting ultimate, also triggers animation and reality damage it deal is further increased. Okay, so yeah, they're definitely leaning more into the DPS angle with Getian. I don't know if it's going to be any good. I really don't think he'll be main DPS tier. Unless they really make animation like a solid modifier, then maybe, but for what it's worth, I don't think he himself is going to be like a DPS. Even if you pair him up with, the other supports for the team, such as Melania, if you pair him with maybe Lapera might be a good option. Or other strong crit rate users. Technically, yeah, Lapera will be good because she can buff Ultimate Might and give him potential overflow. He might maybe deal some considerable damage because this is every turn now. Like, it's every turn. It lasts over a course of turns. It's considered as ult damage, so he could potentially cook up something. I don't know if it's going to be like top tier or anything, but for what it's worth, I mean, at least it gives Gutian something to do. For what it's worth, Gutian never really had a proper standing, even when he first came out. He was okay. I don't say good, but he was like an okay support when he first debuted. He never really stuck the landing because Isolde came the patch later and was just a much more profitable reality support. It's one of those prime examples of like what happened in Nor, where a unit that comes out that can be considered as promising, and then another unit comes out a patch later to completely kind of steal their whole flow and be a much better candidate for what you want them to be. Isolde happened to be much better because she had a stronger shred, she had critical defense down, she had the 75% damage amp. Like she had so many different things, and it wasn't just tied to specifically reality units. Like Isolde could be used on any team, and Getian having the distinction of being only a reality debuffer or wanting most of his support to be, or most of his options to be reality, definitely did hurt his overall performance. But it is what it is. I don't know what this is gonna ultimately mean for him though. I can only really only see sub DPS support for Ultimate Might teams. But again, I think it would be for a newer DPS that's probably coming sometime in the future who may not necessarily want Rico Lettuce candidates. So yeah, but I don't know if it'll be new DPS Rico. I mean, no, new DPS Millennia and GTN, and then like a sustain of choice. Maybe that'll probably be the best thing for him because Rico Lettuce currently wants either Modir or Pickles. I don't know how much Modir will beat GTN though, because Modir provides a lot of damage to the Ultimate Might team. But it would really also have to depend on how the Ultimate Might DPS in question works with Modir, because Modir requires like specific setups to really get most of her buffs going. But for what it's worth, it is still a considerable boost. But I will say that from a personal standpoint, from looking at this Euphoria, Getian's Euphoria seems interesting. I would definitely invest into it if it comes when it comes out in global. Mine is sitting at P2 if I'm not mistaken. So mine will actually be able to be a little bit more of a damage dealer, a little bit more because I believe P2 gives him a little bit of damage to his animation skill if I'm not mistaken, or it's either P2 which gives the reduced amount of yeah, it's both. It's both. I remember now. P2 gives him the reduction of Dina reality units, only 2 per team, including himself, so he's only one other reality unit. And then animation's critical rate and critical damage is boosted to 30%. I wouldn't need to go to like P3 or P4 to get the extra modifier for animation, but it is what it is. I think it's like P3 or something, but I'm not gonna do that. Alright, so that is going to be it for Getian. Again, I think his Euphoria is fine. There's nothing natively wrong from what I'm seeing from a standpoint, from a speculation standpoint. It just seems interesting. I will have to see what the numbers are for what its boosts are. I assume that the animation stacks are going to be boosted quite a bit, considering that they're really focusing hard on animation as an attack. So I really do think they're probably going to really give this a super high buff. His other stuff from the rank 1, I'm pretty sure these are gonna get pretty considerable amounts. I think like maybe like Ultimate Might, maybe like 30, maybe 40% would probably be a good number. This is for sure gonna be a Moxie +2, so he can just ult out of the gate unless he has like built-in Moxie overflow, which he doesn't. So it will probably just be +2 for him. And then this is effectively at the end of the round, if under Prophecy Foretold, he's gonna just straight up get through Moxie as a refund. So pretty good, pretty good. All right, so let's talk about the next one. It's going to be Centurion. So Centurion got Moxie damage boost, which is a part of her core kit. Ultimate specialization. Does that mean ultimate damage up? Cool. And crit rate and crit damage up, which is always a staple for DPSs anyway. So let's see what this Centurion get. Alright. At the start of the limit, Moxie limit increases. Ooh. Oh. Already? That's... So this is Moxie +5? Probably? It would make sense if it's Moxie +5, because Centurion's whole core gimmick when she first came out was increased damage based on the type of Moxie she had. I wonder, does that mean if she gets +5 on start, which makes 10. With Millennia, that'd be 15. Ooh, kind of spicy. Anyway, let me see. Victorious General deals additional reality damage based on Moxie. Again, tying in with the core of her inheritances. Outdoor Superstar, which is her AoE skill, deals additional reality damage based on Moxie. Again, same. The damage of Victoria's General and Outdoor Superstar is affected by Ultimate Might. Oh. So that's Gutian right there. Okay, so literally just what I just said. Literally just what I said, where Gutian probably wants a different DPS as opposed to Rigoletta. So Centurion might just be the DPS that he wants. I mean, it would make sense. She is reality, and you know, kind of put two and two together. But wow, Centurion might cook. All right, let me see. Rank 2, when Victoria's General is cast, which is the attacking skill, which she jumps and kicks people. If Moxie is below a certain threshold, increases self Moxie. Okay. If Moxie is equal to or above the threshold, consumes a set amount of Moxie to deal additional reality damage. Okay, so she kind of has that similar effect to what she had in her beta Euphoria, where she would consume her Moxie to get like additional crit damage. This is just additional reality damage. This is really seeming like to be a GTN partner. Like, this is really it, because if you're getting additional reality damage on top of his own already giving you an additional, I mean, it's pretty much what you want, right? Like, I think Centurion, GTN, and Melania will probably be the team that's probably going to be that's flourishing with her. And then like a sustain of choice, probably someone like Fatutu or something, or Kakania. I question if, well, considering that I question the fact, because if Modir specifically wants like units who can really quickly get into their ult, Rico and Millennia both can really get into their ult quick. I don't know if Modir would still be a decent option going forward with that. So I'm not sure, but Centurion and Jutien definitely seems like a core. So that's that. But not a bad rank 1, not a bad rank 2. I'm hoping that these are pretty sizable boosts, just to deal additional reality damage. I'm hoping at least we're like 50 to maybe like 75% modifier buff, which is, decent. I would expect for them to give a really good flat number, because I believe Centurion's base mods aren't the highest, because she is a 1.0 unit. So her base mods, like even considering just like a 1-star cast, if I have the numbers off the top of my head, it's not very high. Like, I can actually go back and check. Let me just go and check my notes really quick. But her Victoria's General at just 1-star cast is 180, and her AoE is 150. So I would hope that these actually get buffed up pretty well. Alright, so let's see what she gets as her rank 3 and rank 4. So let's go ahead and see. When Outdoor Superstar is cast, which is the AoE, if Moxie is below... Okay, so it's the exact same bonus as the rank 2. So basically, both of her skills are going to give her either self-Moxie increase for further damage amp, or just consume the set amount of Moxie to give stronger reality damage. Okay. Alright. And rank 4, which there's a little bit of spelling typo there. Ultimate does not consume Moxie. After using an ultimate, enter Heavenly Feast. This is a new buff. Heavenly Feast for several rounds. Ultimate cannot be gained. Casting Victoria's General and Outdoor Superstar does not consume Moxie. Oh. And both crit rate and crit damage is increased. Moxie is cleared when the status ends. Okay, so essentially, this is a really good way to kind of countervent Centurion's problem with keeping her consistent damage. Now, if you guys don't know, when Centurion uses her ultimate, there goes the damage amp, really, because remember, Centurion gets, I believe, 6% damage dealt up on her I1 based on the amount of Moxie that she has. But since you're gonna want to use ultimate, because that was, again, one of her stronger skills, you effectively lose that amp, so you lose that bit of downtime. So now, for what it's worth, it looks like that since the ultimate no longer consumes the Moxie, you will then be able to keep your damage amplification. You will then be able to keep the bonus effect of these skills at a consistent level, which means she will continuously have the additional reality damage modifier. She will continuously have the crit rate, crit damage buff, and all this stuff. So this is actually a pretty good effect. I think this is a really good way to kind of countervent the main issue of what she had when she first released, which is of course the whole Moxie fluctuation thing, because she basically had to use ultimate. But I mean, that's a pretty good. That's actually pretty solid. I mean, that just pretty much makes her more accessible and more available to be used in standard forms of content. So again, I think this is actually a pretty good rank 4 as well. So yeah. Now we have to see for several rounds. Obviously, that could mean any sort of number. I would hope maybe 4, maybe 5 rounds. But if I were to give my final thoughts on a Euphoria, it's actually pretty good. It is a little just simple and to the point, where it's just, increase damage on her main two skills, give them additional benefits, give them additional bonuses, and now has ultimate might specialization built into it. So now she can run with other ult might supports. That's really just it. But hopefully it's enough to actually make her at least somewhat usable again. I don't think Centurion will climb up into like a meta team, in my personal opinion, but I do think she will still be usable for general content, even for reveries, because she still has a good, decent AoE ult. So I still do think she's gonna get used. Like, don't get me wrong, but she won't be in the top like best of teams or anything. But for what it's worth, not bad. It's not a bad fix. All right, now we're gonna talk about Druvis, which is the unit who's getting the free Euphoria stuff. So let's see, she gets debuffs, plant and Filius enhancement, which is kind of the same as what she got from her first path, and extra damage. So let's see. All right, rank 1 enhances circle of life when attacking. When attacking, grants a certain amount of fire sprouts based on the incantation's rank. Fire sprouts explodes at the start of the round. Each stack deals Genesis damage to the target equal to the percentage of your team's average attack. Then all stacks are removed. Huh. So they're turning her into a Genesis DPSer. But why? There's already one in the game with Willow. I mean, Willow's condition is different because it's poison. I don't know how to feel about that. Like, And then like she wants like a rank up team then for that case, which there's a few units she can definitely run this with, like Anali for example, because Anali would be able to give you frequent rank ups, but that was kind of the same thing as what you were already doing with her originally, right? Like OG Druvis with their current Euphoria that we have now, you'd run her with Anali because Anali has potential to put a Petrify, and of course 2 stacks of Petrify basically makes the target petrified, so kinda doesn't change that synergy there. The Genesis damage thing is a little interesting because Genesis is like it's an okay archetype for damage. The problem is that I've seen stages completely just gut Genesis damage, which makes me question if this will be a viable type of synergy. I will want to see how well it performs. But an average of team attack is actually pretty interesting. That could maybe make Kakania with her a little bit better to run too, because you would run Kakania with her too anyway. Let me see. So it is probably going to be Druvis, Anali, Kakania. Who would be the fourth? It wouldn't. It wouldn't necessarily have to be Sota because, yeah, I don't know. Maybe someone to make use of the critical resistant, critical defense. I mean, this is basically Argus support right here. Because this further, I believe that the stacks of Fire Sprout will stack with Argus's unique debuff. But then who would be the DPS? Her? Or would you just be relying on Genesis? This would have to be a really sizable modifier for it to really be considerably impactful. For you to run like a full support team with like Druvis, Anali, Argus, and like Kakania. Like if you could run something like that, if the Genesis damage is at least a good amount, then maybe that's a strong maybe though. It's like a in terms of DPSs that would be beneficial for it. I mean, not too many options in plant, honestly. Because again, Druvis still has the whole core of wanting to run a core plant team. Do we have a plant Genesis DPS unit? I don't think we do, actually. Now that I think about it, I don't think we have a Genesis plant DPS, which is kind of odd. But just let me actually just look. Let me look at our current list of 6-star DPSs. Maybe I don't think. Nah, I don't think Hisbeth is Genesis. I don't believe. Yeah. No, she's not. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think Genesis is. In her thing. So, I don't know. I don't know who would be the DPS for this team. I don't know. That's an interesting change, though. I mean, maybe she herself will be the DPS, possibly. Maybe. But I don't know. But for all we know, that could be what this is going with. But kind of a little bit perplexed on that one, though. A little perplexed. All right, so let's see. Rank 3. At the start of the battle, if there are multiple plant affiliates characters enhancing the effect of Circle of Life, which is again what you'd want to do anyway. The Circle of Life in the ally in the most front gains additional penetration rate, which is kind of the same, but it's just on one specific ally. Okay. The Circle of Life of the ally directly behind gains damage taken reduction. Okay, so that's better support for Kakania, which is good. Who will want pen rate though? Like, I can't stop and think besides Hisbeth, because Hisbeth's like the only kind of modern DPS for plant. Like, Nor doesn't really care. Actually, Nor would actually like this. Not actually. Nor has built-in pen rate on ult, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check. She has built-in penetration rate on ult. So maybe Nor could be the partner here. Nor doesn't necessarily mind having negative statuses too, so maybe this is Nor's support. Could this be their way of maybe trying to give Nor a fighting chance? Because I still do feel like Nor was kind of like shelved out of the archetype really quickly because Rico happened to patch after. So maybe Druvis could be the fix that we're looking for Nor's composition. So I think that could very well be the composition that we're looking for when it comes to for Nor comps, you know. I don't know if you'd not want to run Millennia with Nor because Nor is effectively still an ultimate my DPS. She wants ult. So I don't know if you'd want, because again, I'd assume you probably want at least 3 plant characters. So you do have at least one free slot to run whatever you want, which is again a thing. That's something that you can at least do, because in front of her will give her additional pen rate, which is good, because that will stack on top of her ult, and then Kakanya, who will be in the back, would get the damage taken reduction effect, which is again going to be really good because that's going to help your team stay alive for a longer period of time. Maybe it might cook. But anyway, rank 4. At the start of the battle, if there are multiple plant affiliates characters, enhances the effect of Circle of Life again. And when fire sprouts explode, each stack provides damage bonus for all allies. Okay, so it just gives further damage amp. Okay. I don't know how I feel about this Euphoria, honestly. The other two I felt were fine, considerably good. But this one, I don't know. And the big reason why I don't know is because there's not a dedicated DPS for her for this comp. Like, the difference between like her first Euphoria and her second one is because it applies to basically every plant unit, the additional damage, the attack up, the mental defense boost, and all that stuff. All of that was just pretty much just because you were a mental unit. So a lot of the mental I mean, you were a plant unit, my bad. But if you were a plant unit, then you got all those bonuses. So all you had to do was just be a plant. These seem to want a little bit more specific nature to otherwise make the buffs work. Now, we again have to see just how much damage the fire sprouts are doing. How much Genesis damage is it doing? Is it doing a decent enough to where it's actually feasible for her to actually have considerable damage output? Are the sprouts gonna be like something that you can get into really quickly? Um, Again, it really just depends on how like the demand for her rank ups are, because the only real support you can run with her for rank ups is on Ali or six. But then again, you're losing out on a plant character, which is something Druvis wants the most. So, it's a little shaky there. But we have to see. If this was Anali's old beta buff, then I would feel a little bit more confident, because Anali's old buff used to rank up every single card in your deck, period. There was no like, if you had a certain amount of stacks of Empower Incantation, it was just straight up an Empower Incantation to your entire hand. So that would have made this sound a little bit more easier to achieve. But then they didn't give her that in the real version of Euphoria. They kind of gave her like a scuffed version. She still ranks up cards, but she doesn't do it as effectively or as free as she would in the beta version. So again, we got to see how this looks on how this looks on modifiers before I really give like a deeper opinion, or when this comes close to global, because that way I have some decent feedback by then. I've had some actual testing done with it. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know about Druvis, man. I'm at least somewhat hopeful that Druvis will have useful this Euphoria. I don't know how much better it would be over her first one though. But the fact that it's free, you can't really complain. Like if you already got the first one and then you get the second one for free, you can just interchange it. So I mean, it's not like it's a waste of your resources because it's free, and the key is specifically tailored for Druvis. So it's not a waste of material. So if it's kind of mid, then it's not that big of a loss. Like I can only really see it being an issue if someone committed to grind it up. Because remember, getting the 5-star materials for these for the gear sometimes, or for your forges, is actually it can take a while. Trust me. And sometimes if you don't have the other Euphoria stuff because you're lacking, or you're building up a lot of other units, then it could be definitely a problem. But since this is free, that issue kind of just mitigates itself. So I don't know. But if you ask me personally, right, this Euphoria doesn't sound super great, but it's promising. I'll give it promising. The other two, I'm really just to say that they're good, but this one, promising. I don't know what they're gonna do to kind of sell the Euphoria, but I'm interested. But I'm interested. Anyway, this has been your boy Jet Stingren. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.